Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to say that I am very pleased to have an opportunity to be a part of this scientific conference. Really, it is a great opportunity for me as a doctorate student to present the current results of our research and to introduce what we are doing here at Prešov University. I have prepared a short presentation for you, so I will try to share it. Please let me know if you won't see it. Is it visible for you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the topic of our research is physics tasks and critical thinking. Critical thinking is the main theme we are dealing with. So in the following minutes, I would like to tell you something about theoretical background of critical thinking. It means some basic characteristics, why it is important for people of our living in this century. Then what is the difference between non-critical and critical thinking? And finally, I will present a model of critical thinking. In the second part of the presentation, I will tell you something about the main aims of our research, then the methods we used, how we did the research, how we realized it. Then I will show you some examples of the physics tasks we created, and finally, I will introduce our future research, which is connected with the current one. So, as it comes to critical thinking, it is really very modern and very current term. However, its roots dates back to ancient Greece, to the era of Socrates, the philosopher, who is considered to be the father of critical thinking. Even today, a very famous teaching method is known, which is called Socrative dialogue or Socrative questioning. Socrates was of the opinion that people must not just blindly and automatically accept all the ideas of other philosophers or all new philosophies, but every new thing, every new idea or statement should be questioned at first. We should always ask, is this real? Why? We should look for some science. We should try to get as many information as possible about this topic. And after that, we can come to conclusion if some idea is real or not real. So finally, we can assess it. As it comes to etymology of the word critical thinking, it also is dated to or connected with Greece with two words, kritikos and criterion. The first one means ability to decide, and the second one is a norm or a standard. So if we combine this together, we can get a definition of critical thinking, that it is ability to make a critical decision according to some norms or some standards. However, we have to be very careful to understand critical thinking correctly, because critical thinking is related to critical attitude. This means a tendency to think logically and rationally about ideas or about the world around us. And it can't be misunderstood with critic or criticism, which is a negative assessment of everything around us and automatic refusing of new things. Below this text, I have written some definitions from professional literature. They are all of these definitions state that critical thinking is goal-oriented, and it helps students to move from superficial learning to in-depth learning. This is the reason why we have focused our attention on critical thinking, because we want students to learn how to think, not how to memorize things. Now I would like to tell you why critical thinking is important in our life. On this picture you can see an American man, MacArthur Wheeler, who robbed 2 banks in one day. It happened in 1995 in the city of Pittsburgh. Even that day when he provided the robbery, he was arrested, and he was very shocked how it is possible that police found it that he was the one who did this. And he always claimed that it is not impossible. It is not possible because he has put lemon juice on his face, and he was convinced that this lemon juice would make him invisible. Then the policeman and some psychologists studied him, and it turned out that somewhere on the internet he read an article where it was written that lemon juice is possible to make things disappear. Maybe you are aware of how lemon juice can be used to make ink disappear. So he didn't understand this article right, and he believed something that is not true. This is today known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. So to avoid having people like him in our society, we consider it very important to learn students how to assess the things around them right. On this table you can see the basic differences between non-critical thinking and critical thinking. As it was said before, the basic characteristics of critical thinking are related to thinking about things, assessing them, making assumptions and hypotheses, to be active in searching for the truth, to be rational about things. At the school environment, it's connected with problem-solving tasks and inquiry-based learning. On the other hand, a thinking which we call non-critical is based on just beliefs, not assumptions. It is based on a person's preferences and opinions. It's often irrational, and as it comes to students, they are very passive in searching for truth and for reality. On this picture you can see a model of critical thinking that we use in Slovakia. This model is done by Professor Kolarikova from Komenského University in Bratislava. It was inspired by National University in Iowa, and then it was adjusted for our Slovak conditions. Here you can see that the very basic of critical thinking is having knowledge. If students have some knowledge, some facts about the world, then they can start to think critically. This means 3 steps: to analyze things, to synthesize information, and then to assess them. If they can think critically, then they can start to develop creative thinking, which have also 3 steps: synthesis, imagination, and elaboration. This altogether creates a complex process of thinking. Some authors also add metacognition as a very important part of critical thinking. Metacognition is knowing or realizing person's own learning, his learning styles, his learning preferences. Now I will tell you something about our research. So the main aim of this research was to confirm the ability of primary school students to think critically when they solve physics tasks. We also wanted to determine the most frequent level of students' critical thinking. It means the one of those I have mentioned a minute ago, analysis, synthesis, or assessment. We used a research method of a questionnaire which was combined with a didactic test. Both of them were non-standardized. They had closed answers, which means that students had to choose from only one option from the 4 possible. In this research, in the part of a questionnaire, we have focused on the analytical level of thinking, then synthetical level, and finally assessment. Each of these levels includes specific skills that students be able to show. Analytical thinking includes skills like pattern recognition or identification of the main thoughts of the keywords. Also, ability to categorize some words into groups and subgroups. Then the synthetical level is a higher level, and it includes skills like comparing things, finding differences and finding similarities. Also finding for the context and causal relationships. Assessment is the highest level of cognitive thinking, and it includes 2 skills. It is assessing the information, which means deciding whether the information is true or false, and also their ability to recognize the wrong conclusions. So this research was provided last year during the February and March of the year 2020. We have visited 6 primary schools in the region of Prešov. These schools were situated in both cities and also in the villages. The research group was made from the 7th to 9th graders of primary school. They attended traditional classes which were not specified in any school subject, ordinary classes, and this research or this didactic test was done under the teacher's supervision. We were able to get a statistical group of 194 respondents, of which 86 were girls and 108 were boys. As you can see, it is very similar as it comes to percentage number. On this picture, you can see some other information about the statistical group. The most students attended 7th grade of primary school. They were more than 100, and as it comes to their age, they were mainly 13 years old. On this slide, I would like to present an example of physics tasks we have prepared for them. You can see a table where in the first column there are written 5 groups of words. In the first group there are words like kilometer, meter, and centimeter. In the first line there you can see 5 words, and the student's task is to choose which word from the line suits the best to each column, to each group. So they have to match a column with a line. This physics tasks is focused on determining students' analytical thinking. This is an example of another physics tasks. On this picture you can see physics scales, 2 physics scales, and students should be already aware of the fact that if both sides of the scales are at the same height, it means that the wave of the balls is the same. However, if one side of the scale is lower and the another of them is higher, they should be able to decide which one of them is higher, higher as it comes to weight. So students' tasks is to look at the picture, think about the weights of each ball, and choose the one correct answer from the 5 options we gave them. As you can see, this physics task is a bit difficult than the previous one, and it is because of it is focused on detecting second level of critical thinking, and it is synthesis thinking. In our future research we have already started to do is to detect whether there is an association between the level of students' interest in physics and the level of critical thinking. So we want to prove that the lowest level of interest, which you can see here, it's low level of interest and a 0 level of interest. So we want to prove that these 2 levels would be associated with the lowest level of critical thinking, which is analysis. Similarly, the medium level of students' interest would be associated with the medium level of critical thinking, which is synthesis. And finally, the highest level of interest would be associated with the highest level of critical thinking, meaning assessment. So that's all from my side. And thank you very much for your attention.